Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on an absolutely gorgeous Wednesday afternoon. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Network. A great program lined up for you. We're going to be talking anything in the Charlottesville news cycle today with two stalwarts, two talented journalists, Courteney Stewart and Elliott Robinson. CBS 19, of course, Courteney Stewart and Elliott Robinson, the editor of Charlottesville Tomorrow. I am on their news platforms on a daily basis. I'm talking like 8, 10, 12, 14 times a day. I'm a news junkie. I started my career in news in print. Then that led to radio and television. I cannot get news out of my blood. I follow these two very closely. We'll talk development. We'll talk that K-Mart Shopping Center. We'll talk the city council race. We'll talk potential Starbucks coming to the Wells Fargo building across from Best Buy. Right around the corner, or literally in the parking lot of Best Buy. We'll talk Mayor Walker and what she had to say about Lloyd Snook. I think that's undoubtedly still in the news cycle. The June 11th primary is what? I mean, like less than 3 weeks away, and that primary is going to go a long way in determining the 3 open seats on Charlottesville City Council. This program is going to be fire. Charlottesville Tomorrow has shared this post. Thank you kindly, Giles and team, for sharing this. Give the channels a like and a share wherever you're watching. We have folks now watching in Philly, and outside Chicago, in Charlotte, in Richmond, and across Central Virginia. Before we go anywhere, let's thank some of the folks that make the program possible. First, we'll give some love to Interstate Pest and Service Companies. I don't know if you knew this, but in 1969, one man started Interstate Pest and Service Companies. He had one truck and his willingness to work hard. He would go service his first account and then head to the nearest payphone in 1969 where he would call his second customer and say, "May I come to your house now?" Today, it's a 4-generation strong business. Our company is their proud advertising agency of record. 4 generations, nearly 100 employees, an office in the Shenandoah Valley, an office in Richmond. Guys, an office, their headquarters around the corner from Bodo's Bagels on Harris. Just a fabulous company doing fantastic things for Charlottesville. Just like the good doctor, Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. We are their ad agency of record as well. Physical therapy, sports medicine, chiropractic care. Dr. Wagner and his team absolutely have your back. Who's got your back? Dr. Wagner has your back. I have the easy job. I have to be myself on this microphone Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1:30, and a few other shows on our network. Harris Tolbert, Judah Wickower, and the team upstairs have the hard job of keeping us on track. We are undoubtedly grateful for this team and what we're trying to do here, which is bringing a glimpse of the best of Charlottesville to you guys through our platform. Let's go to the studio cam. We'll welcome Courteney Stewart to the show. Hello, Courteney.
Hello, Jerry.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This gentleman right here, Elliott Robinson.
Hello.
Nice for you to be here. Thank you kindly for your most precious commodity, your time, Elliott.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. We will start ladies first. And I kind of want to get the flip book of Courteney Stewart. We call it the birth story, the passions, the hobbies, the interests, who Courteney Stewart is as a person.
As a person. Am I a person and a journalist?
You're first a person. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
We know you as a journalist.
Right.
We don't know you as well as a person.
Okay, so I guess in a nutshell, I grew up actually in Massachusetts, but moved to Richmond to end high school. So that's how I ended up in Virginia. Arrived in Charlottesville in sort of 96, 97 for a relationship that has, kept me here. Had a couple of kids. Went through the Charlottesville City Public Schools. One of them still doing that. And what do I like to do? I play violin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
No.
See, I bring surprises.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I do. I'm a
baller
violinist, and just love doing stuff outside, love reading. I mean, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
All right.
You like a cocktail from time to time?
I do like a cocktail from time to time.
Who doesn't?
Yes. And there's plenty of good places to get them around here.
What are some of Courteney's favorites?
Well, what are some of my favorite? I got to give a shout out to the Tavola and Alley, the Alley Light. For some of their sort of fancier mixed drinks. I think those are fun. But I'm sort of probably I like martinis.
Okay. Martinis, there you go. Courteney Stewart, the violinist, the martini drinker, the outside goer, the fabulous mom, and the fantastic journalist who we will get to shortly. This gentleman is newer to Charlottesville. His name is Elliott Robinson, the editor, the news editor at Charlottesville Tomorrow. I'm on Charlottesville Tomorrow constantly. Dude, you're rocking. The content you and your team is creating is just fabulous. I think it fills a niche that's gone, unfilled for a long period of time until Charlottesville Tomorrow really emerged on the scene. I fell in love with the brand when Brian Wheeler and Sean Tubbs were running the show. Now it's a Giles Morris and Elliott Robinson team with some other folks on the club as well. We'll get to Charlottesville Tomorrow. First, I'd like to know who Elliott Robinson is, the man.
All right, well, I grew up in Hampton. I've been steadily moving westward on Interstate 64 ever since. I went to college in Newport News, and I lived in the Richmond area. And I first got here in 2012, and then I went back to Richmond very briefly, and then I moved back here last year. It's been pretty enjoyable to be in the Charlottesville area. I keep wanting to come back here. That's what drew me back from Richmond. I just love the atmosphere, how close we are to the mountains. Well, we're in the mountains, and how close we are to D.C. compared to other parts of the state, but far enough away that you don't have to deal with all the issues around D.C. As for things I like to do, I enjoy taking road trips to visit friends. Just driving is one of my favorite things to do. I also really a lover of music and books, so I'm crowding out the living room. It's driving my wife crazy. I have a crate full of records in there right now that my mom just gave me.
That's awesome. 757 in the house. 757 guy myself. Williamsburg, Virginia, was just in Hampton this past weekend. Seeing you. College.
Seeing you, yes.
Christopher Newport University. This guy's doing big time things for journalism in Charlottesville, as is Courteney Stewart. So why don't we start with news in Charlottesville? That's why they're here. They are insiders. They are experts. They have their finger on the pulse. I'll start open-ended. Some of the stories that you're covering or that you're following in the Courteney Stewart news cycle.
All right, so let me think about this, because I'm actually going on vacation on Friday, so I've been sort of in a softer news cycle the last couple of days, but that doesn't mean they haven't been good. I'm working on a story about CBD and the challenges that may be presenting to law enforcement, because if people don't know what CBD is, it's sort of related to marijuana, but it doesn't have THC. It does not get you intoxicated, and it's sort of increasing in popularity as a medicinal treatment for all sorts of ailments, but it also looks and smells just like pot. So what's law enforcement, how are they going to handle this?
How is law enforcement going to handle this? I mean, it seems to be decriminalized right now.
Well, right. I mean, essentially, I think there's much less enforcement of that, but it's still an issue. I mean, what I've gotten from law enforcement is that it's still something that's being worked out because it's new. And, and there's so much shifting in that landscape that, we've got states where marijuana with THC is legal. It's not here, but it seems like the country is sort of moving in that direction. So I think this is something that's still working itself out. But I was sort of curious about how they were going to handle that. And a local business is going to be is rebranding as a CBD lounge.
And do you think that local business is doing this because they see where the market's going? Undoubtedly, we see what's happening in LA and California. We see what's happening in Boulder and Denver and Colorado. We know we're heading that way. We know eventually it's going to be taxed and regulated, and the businesses that are first to market will undoubtedly have an advantage compared to the ones that follow years later. Yeah,
I don't know that they are planning to move in that direction, but I think definitely they, if you are paying attention at all, you can see that that's the direction things are headed, and there's a lot of money being made by people in this sort of opening up industry.
Yeah, and I think we're going to follow that closely. I'm seeing already now, and Elliott, you jump in here. You can go anywhere you want. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because this is a story she's covering. I'm seeing folks walking down the downtown mall, and they're hitting the vape pens. The police doesn't seem to matter. It would seem like their energy and their resources would be better spent doing other kinds of policing than popping somebody that's hitting a vape pen on the downtown mall. I know the CBD is different than actual marijuana itself, still in the same family. We have higher education on West Main Street. That's kind of, it's a head shop. That's kind of selling, and I don't know the exact name, but it's selling a product that looks exactly almost like marijuana that is not THC.
That's CBD.
That's the CBD. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and that's called CBD flower, I think is what, but it looks like...
Exactly like marijuana.
Yes, and so if you're carrying a baggie of that and you're smoking it, it is going to smell like it, it's going to look like it, and so how do you distinguish between the two from a law enforcement perspective if you're doing any sort of marijuana enforcement, which I think we're moving away from that being a law enforcement priority.
As we should. One of the reasons we should be is there's an obscene amount, and I'm going to throw this to you, Elliott, you go anywhere you want. There's an obscene disparity in incarcerations of when it comes to white folks, when it comes to African Americans, when it comes to Hispanic folks that are incarcerated because of marijuana. And it's just ridiculous, unfair ratio of numbers that undoubtedly needs to be corrected. Your thoughts on this topic, CBD in general, and then I want to see what you're covering for Charlottesville Tomorrow as well.
I think that as we're trending towards everything getting legalized, we also just need to do something about the people who currently are incarcerated. I mean, it doesn't seem exactly fair that these people are serving long sentences for something that now people are profiting from doing exactly the same thing.
I totally agree. Selena Anthony says hello. Hey, Elliott, you're looking sharp. Give the show a like and a share on any stream you are watching. Your stream is blowing up right now. I will get to those followers shortly. Ray Cadell, welcome to the program. What are you covering? You're just back from a vacation, so you're getting your head back into the grind and the news cycle here. But what is Charlottesville Tomorrow covering that should be out there?
Well, as a lot of people know, we had a planning commission meeting recently where a lot of things that we were anticipating are getting closer to fruition. It was fascinating to be at that planning commission meeting where everyone was dancing around the words Starbucks and Target, although both of those developments that are coming up soon clearly were them. And another thing I just wanted to look into is just general walkability and bikeability in the area. Last weekend, I spent several hours just going around Manhattan, and it was just enjoyable just to be on the sidewalks, to see roads getting closed for various activities, and then coming back here and where I live in Albemarle County, that there's things that I can see from my apartment that I have to drive to because there's no viable way to walk there. So one thing we're looking into over the summer is, now that we're getting closer to the West Main streetscape happening, the Belmont Bridge getting replaced, how is that going to affect traffic? How is that going to affect people trying to get around on foot as well?
That's a sizzle reel from Elliott Robinson right there. A sizzle reel is a highlight from the show that we cut into shorter, approachable clips, as you know, and we syndicate across our network. I want to follow up with this and then get you in the mix. You know Charlottesville inside and out. First, the K-Mart Shopping Center. And I would encourage you to go to both Charlottesville Tomorrow and CBS 19's websites. They have, is it like not a sketch, but it's kind of like a depiction of what the K-Mart Shopping Center could eventually turn into if the developer has his or her way of what they want it to look like. And they have, and I'm kind of recounting what I remember, they have one store that has Anchor on the storefront, and it was in the color palette of Target.
Red.
Yeah, red.
Very red.
Immediately, all of social media jumped to, that's a freaking Target coming to the K-Mart Shopping Center, right? It looked pretty dope. It looked really nice. Throw it to you. Follow up with you, Courteney. Your thoughts on what's happening with that K-Mart Shopping Center on 29. What is in the pipeline?
The problem with it was that it was very, very red. So it went to the Planning Commission as they were operating as the Interest Corridor Review Board, and they also believed that it was very, very red. They've kicked it back to the developers of toning it down a bit. But if it is a Target, as they say, they have many variations on how the building looks. Like on further up 29 in Hollymead, it's not as red. It's very sedate. So there's a possibility they can just tone it down a bit. I know that they're probably excited if they can use their new template for buildings and they want to have that on a high-profile corner, but I don't think it'll be a deal breaker.
Well said. Start with my question for the sizzle reel. Let's keep it going because I want to get Courteney's perspective. Lori Goodbody says, hey, Courteney, thank you for your top-notch professionalism. You always embody this quality. You're a well-deserved vacation on the horizon. I agree. You're certainly a professional
thanks,
all the
Lori.
time. You're a mom. You know, you mentioned this off air. It's difficult for folks that live on our side of town to head north of town to Target. Just because the traffic congestion is really bad around Hollymead and Forest Lakes. Furthermore, with Kmart going away, where do we go for that Kmart, like Target, Walmart product that we need?
Yeah, I mean, there's Costco, which is certainly closer down at Stonefield, and I mean, there's a few other stores like that. But with Kmart closing, we definitely lost that kind of big box store close to town. So, I mean, people probably will disagree and have different opinions on this, but certainly I do feel like that's sort of a business niche that's not filled in the sort of urban ring and immediately downtown. Even over at Fifth Street Station, which is close to my house.
Mine too.
We've got Dick's over there and Wegmans, but there isn't a big box sort of general store where you can go in for your groceries and your laundry. You know, your laundry detergent and your clothes.
So a lot of people are saying this, and throw it, no rules here. You guys just jump in. Don't wait for me to chime in or ask the question. A lot of people are saying, damn it, Charlottesville does not need more big box stores. What we need is affordable housing. We don't need another strip center or a shopping center, especially when there's Stonefield across the way. You're saying, not so fast, my friends.
Well, okay, first of all, I mean, having been to Stonefield, and I go over there for Trader Joe's, and I walk through, and you know, there's a few places I go in there, but that is definitely not where anybody who needs affordable housing, and myself included, can really afford to like go on a shopping trip.
Well said.
So I think that I see there's, you know, it's so many sort of expensive boutique stores, and I think, you know, I'm not knocking them, but I do also think that. You know, there have to be some places where the prices are affordable for people like me.
Totally agree. Elliott Robinson, thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, with housing, we definitely do need a lot more housing, and because we have limited space, that has to be in the form of apartments. And I know that there's people in this area who aren't very happy with there being a lot of renters, but land is very expensive here. People, they have to do what they have to do just to be able to function in this area. So we have to put them somewhere. We have to be open to different places for them to go, like the proposal at Seminole Square of putting the apartments where the Giant used to be. Well, and that's something that would have been unheard of a few years ago, of putting apartments in the shopping center. But people like to also have that live, work, play dynamic, and there's Meadow Creek behind there. There's, like you said, there's Stonefield, there's the potential of the Target, so it would be a perfect place for people to go, and if they can keep the price point down, it would be a fantastic place to live.
Tell us the Seminole Square proposal. Follow up on this. Educate everybody that's watching about that.
Yes, that should be coming back up pretty soon with the planners of putting several hundred apartments where the grocery store used to be there. At one point, it was going to be the Kroger was going to relocate across the street. That project fell through, so this was the next, I guess this is the plan B of sorts, and also with having Hillsdale Drive going through there, it has the connectivity, it has a bus route there, so it seems like it'll be a interesting project to come online and would serve a lot of people well.
Seminole Square, and get the lower thirds running on screen, Harris Tolber, for us, so people know who we're talking with. They certainly know Courteney. They need to know this man right here. They know his byline. I want to make sure they know his face. He's got the best beard in journalism. I'm going to go ahead and say that. The best beard in journalism, Elliott Robinson. Seminole Square, talk to me about your thoughts on that one.
Well, I'm not that familiar with the proposal, but I think it's a really interesting one, and I think finding places like that are on the bus line that have accessibility to downtown and to, you know, the multiple places in the urban ring where people might work and shop seems like a good idea to me. I also am sort of curious because it seems like there are a couple of shopping centers that are still trying to figure out what they are, sort of like Albemarle Square seems to...
Is that the one ACAC's in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that one's a ghost town.
It is, but it seemed like it started to maybe almost trend towards like sort of a health and wellness theme. Like you have ACAC, and then there was like
there's China Med.
Yeah, there's China Med.
Yeah.
So I sort of wonder like maybe this could be like the healthcare shopping center, or or something like that. But I don't know. It just seems like bringing some residential into these places. I kind of like that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You said it best, live, work, play. I mean, eventually I think we're going to be in a world or an ecosystem that is less reliant on automobile transportation and more reliant on walking or biking to and from places. Cheryl Toller says, what up? Tiffany Patterson's giving you some props right now. Your feed is blowing up right now, and we'll thank some of the folks that are watching. Let's give some props right now to Hank Martin, to Melanie Brown. Lori Goodbody's giving you some props. Gilly Garth has given you some props. Give it a like, give it a share. One of the ones that we've talked about on this show, and Todd Proctor, hello, Mary Blake, hello, Susan Watson, hello, John Lamency, hello, Bobby Castine, Barbara Lundgren. One of the things we talked about on this show, and I put this on Twitter, and I was immediately lambasted by every single reporter on the Charlottesville Daily Progress, is I'm hearing scuttlebutt about Fashion Square Mall and its ties potentially to the University of Virginia. Only scuttlebutt, nothing I can verify whatsoever. You, no news. Maybe start with you here, okay? Are you hearing similar scuttlebutt about this, and can we put it to rest, or is the scuttlebutt where there's smoke, there's fire?
I haven't heard anything about EVA taking that property, but as we've seen over the years, whenever there's a large property available, EVA tends to find a way to get it into their hands, and they might not have any plans for it at that particular moment, but with it being a growing university, it needs places to expand, so they need to make those strategic purchases. But I haven't heard anything in particular about Fashion Square, but I would not be surprised if it turns out that they will set their sights on it.
What do you think is the best use of Fashion Square? And keep that sizzle reel going, Harris. This is the second one.
I think with the current plans coming up around the Rio 29 intersection that is going to be redeveloped, and it will be redeveloped rapidly, that whole area is about to be completely remade. There's a small area plan coming online. There's proposals for developments going on the Rio Road and a change to how Rio Road looks in itself. So I think that pretty soon the time will be right for that intersection, and I believe the owners of that mall are probably waiting to see what happens, whether construction is going to take place, and move from there.
Simon, the owners of the mall, I would encourage you guys to go see what Simon has done to one of their shopping centers in Austin, Texas. A live, work, play shopping center in Austin, Texas, Simon owns. I'm curious to see if they follow suit here in Charlottesville. Fashion Square Mall, I'm going to throw it to you. You like nice clothes? You always look nice? Okay. That mall is a ghost town. I go into that mall and I see empty storefronts. I mean, they've lost some of their key players. You would know this better than I do. If you know who are some of the key tenants they've lost, I'm drawing a blank now. Fashion Square Mall, anywhere you want to go on that one?
Well, I mean, I think there's just so much competition.
Especially online, right?
Yeah, there's online competition, but even in sort of physical stores, I mean, it used to be sort of, I mean, I remember in the 90s, it was pretty much Fashion Square, Barracks Road, and the Downtown Mall.
That's it.
That was it. Those
Right.
were the places you would go to shop. And we, like, and I'm not saying there wasn't anything else, but those were the main places. And now...
Fifth Street Station?
You've got Fifth Street Station, you've got Stonefield, you've got 29th Place.
Yeah. You got Hollymead.
You've got Hollymead.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just there's so much, and I know the population has also expanded, but I don't know that it's expanded, to the degree that the amount of shopping.
Totally
options,
agree. And then throw in the online component.
And throw in the online component. So and throw in, I think, just a sort of a trending away from sort of the 1980s style mall that I grew up in. As like the teen hangout. I mean, that's.
What'd you do at the teen hangout at the mall? Can
I
I ask that question? Is that an off-the-air question for you?
That might be an off-the-air question.
Okay.
I shopped at the Limited.
Okay. You stopped? How about Express?
I shopped at, oh yeah.
I was going to say, you seem like an Express
yes,
guy.
I bought acid wash jeans and,
Oh, those aren't, that's Lennon right there.
in 1984.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Would never have guessed that.
Yes.
So, I mean, are you seeing, if you had a hunch, and I know, you're more of the hard news. I'm trying to pull the opinions out of you here. If you had a hunch, are you seeing that live, work, play, where it's like what Stonefield was trying to do? I mean, the problem with the Stonefield model is like the apartments in Stonefield. I heard that the apartments in Stonefield are like $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 and up. I mean, that's like an effing mortgage payment.
I think
there.
that's what apartments are going
in Charlottesville?
for in Charlottesville for like a 2-bedroom. I think is $1,500 to $1,600 for a lot of the places. I mean, that's what I get when I'm looking at it, and I don't know who can, you can maybe afford that if you have a roommate, but for a single person, you'd have to be earning a lot of money.
Right. Elliott, jump in here.
Yeah, and I was like looking at apartment hunting at the moment. And there's a lot of them. It's like all just
You and your wife?
yeah.
Okay.
It's just horrible looking at some of these prices because I lived in Richmond for so long, and you would think the capital of the state would have a higher price point for a lot of these apartments, but we lived in a place where it had a lot of amenities and a lot of space and was about half the price of where we're currently living.
What do you attribute that to? Just more supply, more housing supply in Richmond versus Charlottesville?
I think because
Higher earning potential in Charlottesville?
I think higher earning potential is a part of it. I think an issue that we had, I don't think it's really an issue, but a change is that probably for decades, people went to UVA, they graduate, they moved on to somewhere else, and now they graduate, they put down roots here, they start their business, it gets bought out by a corporation, they're billionaires overnight, and suddenly they decide that the house that they were renting, they're going to buy it, and now it's a $100,000 house with a $500,000 attachment on it.
Well said. That's the end of that sizzle reel right there, Harris Tolbert. Well said. That segues perfectly into the next topic, the role of the University of Virginia. Welcome Lauren to the program. Give the show a like, give it a share. Bobby Castine says hello. Fred Gruber says hello. Rick Henderson is watching in Richmond right now. Susan Watson, hello. Thank you for joining us. New sizzle reel starts here, Harris Tolbert, with this question. What is the role, open-ended for you, Courteney Stewart, what is the role of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville? Should UVA be a steward of the community? Should UVA only be focused on being the #1 ranked public institution or its ranking in totality across the country? Should it be focused strictly on living wage increasements like it went to $15 an hour? Should it be focused on upping and increasing its billions of endowment capital? Or should UVA be like, look, we are the reason why Charlottesville is Charlottesville, and we need to help expand through our network and our influence, make Charlottesville a better place for everybody. Your thoughts on that topic? It's a lot of, you could go a lot.
You gave me a lot of options
yes,
there. Can
I'm
I
trying.
say like all of the above or none of the above?
That would be the safe answer.
All right, I'll try not to be too safe. I think that obviously Charlottesville is Charlottesville because of the University of Virginia in a lot of ways. I mean, just it has shaped the nature of the town, and I think so many people who live here are employed there. I mean, I think it's the largest employer in the area. So I think that to act like they should be separate or just operating sort of as an entity unto themselves without consideration for the community is wrong, because they are, the people that make up the University of Virginia are the same people that make up the town of Charlottesville. Now, as far as housing issues and things like that, I'm not sure that I can express a strong opinion about exactly how they should be doing it, but I certainly know that they are contributing to some of the housing complaints and housing issues with some of the stuff that's gone on West Main Street and the massive student housing. Now, and they would say that by building those student housing apartment complexes, they're taking some of the strain off the neighborhoods where students would have been renting otherwise.
Like JPA, 14th Street.
Right.
Yeah. Fry Springs.
But I also think, the rents in those places
are
are
astronomical.
insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like $600 a room or something. You have 4 roommates. That's like $2,400 for a 4-bed. I'm not basing that on having just looked at a website, but that's what I think kids have told me that they've been paying.
Yeah, Dana Durham says, hey, Court, looking sharp. Thank you, Dana Durham, for joining us on this program. Keep the sizzle reel going, Harris Tolbert. University of Virginia's role in the community, I would like to see, and I'll throw it to you, I would like to see President Ryan and UVA get more involved from building a more robust public transportation system. From what I'm seeing, the employees that are servicing UVA, they do not live in the city of Charlottesville because they cannot afford to live in Charlottesville. They are living in some of the outer counties. UVA could be more hospitable or offer more support to some of these team members by improving the public transportation routes that visit the outer county areas. Maybe it's a private public partnership with the city of Charlottesville, with Central Virginia in totality of some kind. We know UVA has the money. We know UVA can help from the affordable housing piece. I think President Ryan's coming in with this social entrepreneur mindset, perhaps more altruistic and philanthropic than previous regimes that were only focused on academics. Open-ended. UVA, Central Virginia, Charlottesville, Albemarle County.
I think the transit component is a good idea, but it'll have to also come with a shift in people's mindset. A lot of people, they probably don't like that they have to drive 20, 30, up to an hour to get to UVA, but then they like having the freedom of on their lunch break, they can hop in their car and do whatever they want for an hour or however long their lunch break is. But at the same time, it's more efficient from a standpoint of the environment, and also for parking, all the other cascading issues, is that if people use more public transit, and then at the moment, if we don't have that many people using the bus, it doesn't seem like a worthy investment. It's like a chicken or the egg situation. But I think that the localities have to work with UVA, and we have to just take that plunge and have a robust bus system. As if it's there, people will use it. I think if it takes 40 minutes to get from Stonefield to downtown, it's going to continually have low ridership. But if it can have a service where you can get there, I wouldn't say at the same amount of time it takes to drive your car there. That would kind of be ridiculous because there wouldn't be any stops. But if you could get there in maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes, it would entice people to get on the bus there. And also, as far as housing, I think it's good that there is that student-oriented housing that's getting built, but it is quite expensive, and UVA could help to build some more dorms, but there are students who, at some point, want their independence from the university and not live in the dorms, but at the same time, when those kids cycle out and those dorms are built and you go on tour, you kind of already know what you signed up for when you start applying for the school, that you have to live there for X number of years in these dorms before you go out in the community and live in the other apartments.
I love that. I'm going to throw this topic out there. It seems like this is what's happening. When did you move to Charlottesville? You said 90?
It's 97. I was here full time.
Okay, I've been here since 2000. So 19 years for you. For me, you're 22 and change. You moved here when you were 10, and you're 32 years old. So let me throw this. Kenneth Martin says, what up, by the way? I'm going to throw this. I see the University of Virginia doing this. Okay, UVA, as you said, and you've hit on this really well, and I agree with you, as UVA is producing these incredibly talented students, they're matriculating through the university, graduating, and choosing now to stay in Charlottesville because Charlottesville is this wonderful city. Also, I think the mindset of college graduates has changed now away from going to, say, to like a big city like Boston or New York City, working on Wall Street, to now being a mindset, thanks to shows like Shark Tank and programs like The Profit on CNBC, of being more entrepreneurial. It's the ubiquitous nature of the internet and smartphones that are empowering people to create their own companies. And they're choosing to do it in ecosystems like Charlottesville, where there's talented people that can service the companies and help the entrepreneur make his or her idea a reality, similar to what we're doing here with I Love CVille and V&V brands. So that's creating very intelligent people staying in Charlottesville and building businesses. The second thing that's happened is when Charlottesville got named the happiest city in the world, or happiest city in America, and a world-class city, dudes, like people from all over the country were coming to Charlottesville to say, what's all this fuss about? And they were bringing their Long Island money or their New York City money or their Chicago money or their California money and saying, I'm going to overpay for this home because this home is still 40% less than what my home was worth in Long Island.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. And I have ridiculous disposable income from selling my home on Long Island or New York or Boston or wherever it may be. This has driven the cost of living through the roof, where the true Charlottesvillian is being pushed to Albemarle County or the outer counties. And the city of Charlottesville, I hate to say this, is literally turning into like a San Francisco. Or I'm going to throw it to you. We have a satellite office in New Providence, New Jersey. New Providence is a town. It's a bedroom community in Manhattan. And it's just a town of wealthy millionaires. That's all I see in New Providence when we go up there. Show is yours.
Well, I've been reading a lot about sort of the problems with you start attracting people with money because you're a beautiful place to live. There's amenities and whatever, and then the nature of the community begins to change. I just read an article about what San Francisco is becoming, sort of, massive homelessness and just losing sort of the character of the city. And I've been to San Francisco, but I'm no San Francisco expert. But just reading that and then thinking about hearing people talk about places like Austin and some other places that started out with just sort of a unique character being changed and transformed into something that maybe people don't like as much, just by the forces of
economics.
The economic forces that if you drive out your artists and you drive out your diversity and you drive out the fabric and sort of the complexity of a community, you're going to end up with something that doesn't feel like what you started with.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel that we have to find this way to keep Charlottesville. We can't continually push out all of the people who were here who made this community what it was to entice people to come here. We can't just completely just plow down Main Street and lose like our Mel's and our Lucky Sevens and our people who live in Cherry Avenue,
Fifeville, Star Hill, all of those places. We can't just keep doing that and just completely change over the community, because then it just becomes any town USA, and then we lose that charm. We lose what made Charlottesville, and we lose those people that were like, they were the ones who helped to build the city and make it what it was. Then whose job is it? Is it the role of local government? Is it the role of the Joffrey Woodruff, who literally is in this building across the street from us? Joffrey Woodruff is the manager of a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund called QIM, and Joffrey Woodruff is building the Center of Developing Entrepreneurs. He has torn down the Ice Park. He also gave, I think, $125 million to UVA to build a brand new school. A school for essentially like data science. And a lot of folks are saying that this is becoming a school that's going to be a farm system to feed into Joffrey's portfolio of businesses and his hedge fund. I am a conscious capitalist, run a for-profit business, but I'm focused on leaving Charlottesville in a better place. Some people say a guy like Joffrey, who made his money, he could choose to do whatever he wants with his money. Some people say, let's just let the market figure out itself and allow the people that go out and earn something to enjoy it, and the people that are not earning as much, then they will figure out as well. I'm not really of that mindset. I think there's got to be a balance or a harmony. What is the role of government, of Joffrey Woodruff? What is the role? How do we balance this? Tough question for you. Toughest one so far.
That is a tough one. And, I think I certainly admire people who are brilliant and have great ideas and then execute on those ideas and become very successful. But I don't think, I think that you can't let those people be sort of the sole driving force behind an entire community. And I think there has to be thoughtful public policy. I think zoning, again,
56% of Charlottesville property is zoned R1, which means it's zoned for single-family homes, which means more than half the property in a 10.27-mile city is zoned for only single-family homes and not dense residential living.
And density has to not be a bad word.
And why is it a bad word? Because of the renter, because it then follows renter, follows density, and then what follows renter is not pride in taking care of where they live. And then what follows that is maybe unsafety of the neighborhood from the neighborhood watch standpoint?
Yeah, 'cause I think there's just a stigma around apartments that maybe at one point it was where we shoved the dregs of society, but that's not the case anymore. Is that there's hardworking people that are living their lives, or they don't want to deal with the upkeep of a yard or a driveway or things like that. I grew up in a single-family home, and I thought I wanted to live somewhere with acres, but as I've gotten older, I've progressed that I don't need all of that land. I don't need a giant yard. I don't need a 2- or 3-story house. That if it helps making the city more livable, I'm perfectly fine with living in an apartment.
What do you think?
I think there is definitely. I've been reading this, and I think from the people I talk to in my own personal experience, I do think there's a shift away from this kind of drive to own property or to own the biggest, like McMansions. I mean, I cannot imagine wanting a McMansion. I want less. I want less to take care of. I want to be close to things. I think also the tax reform really took the mortgage deduction out of the equation for me. So it's like I don't even benefit really from owning a home.
Outside of the equity you're accruing.
Yeah. Outside of the equity I'm accruing.
Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, there are other ways to invest, and my heat pump just went. I wish that I had a landlord I could call about that.
It is interesting, and the millennial mindset, just floating this out there, you go anywhere you want. Bill Paulus says, what up? Brian O'Mara Taylor, okay, Elliott, check him out. He's doing big-time things. I see you on a TV show now. This is actually an I Love CVille show. It's not a TV show, but you're getting props from Brian Taylor. He's giving you some love right now. The millennial mindset has shifted some. And I'm a millennial. I'm a 10. I trend to the older side of the millennials. I do own a home and a good portion of this building here. But the younger millennial mindset seems to be away from the American dream is home ownership. And it seems to be now saying disposable income for personal experiences like vacation and travel and stuff that you can put in the memory bank for a lifetime, as opposed to something like a home that's just going to erode your bank account. Your thoughts on that, Elliott?
My mom just had 2 costly repairs to her house, and I was thinking that I don't want to be in my 60s and then have to deal with the entire plumbing system failing, or then also just amassing all of that stuff in the house and trying to figure out who wants it and realizing that no one wants it. And you collect all these things that you thought you were going to pass down.
So not for you at all?
Not for me at all.
Okay. Wife as well?
Yeah, that's the same for her.
I love it. I love it. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. What do you think is going to happen with Joffrey's Code, with the Center of Developing Entrepreneurs? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you trepid? I mean, you follow this closely.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that we need a mixture that this building is coming. The city has to figure out, the city and the county has to figure out that there's going to be people who are staying, there's going to be people who are coming because of that, and like I said, density can't be a bad word. We have to upzone some areas. We have to be creative of where we put apartments. We have to understand that just because someone's renting a property, it doesn't mean that it's going to be this slippery slope of it'll be the worst city in America in 2 years because we built some apartments.
There was a place, I think it was in Michigan, who they just completely redid their whole zoning, and it was, with the understanding that the zoning regulations were put in place as, it was, racism basically, and they revamped them all. I think there is no more R1 zoning. I'd have to check it.
And I'm going to throw this out there, and I catch a lot of grief for saying this. The zoning, and I follow Lyle Sola Yates, one of the planning commissioners, on Twitter very closely, and he has a very good stream about this, or thread on Twitter. The R1 zoning was put into place, and jump in here, you know more about this than I do. The R1 zoning was put into place in the city of Charlottesville to essentially prevent white flight. And what was happening was a lot of folks were leaving Charlottesville to the county for larger plots of land where they could build essentially not McMansions, but larger homes that you couldn't necessarily purchase in the city of Charlottesville because the plots were smaller. So the land was changed, and it was then the R1 zoning was put into place, and that R1 zoning represents about 56% of the land in the city of Charlottesville, and it's a 10.27 mile city. And now what's happening is we're at max capacity. We have nowhere else to expand from a land standpoint because over half of our land is only for single family homes. And now we're at this crossroads of is the outer counties going to be where the folks that service Charlottesville and the folks that are on our police force and our EMTs and work in City Hall and work for the University of Virginia, is that going to be their homes, or will they ever have a chance to move back into the city of Charlottesville altogether?
I have a question,
Sure.
and maybe you would be able to answer this. If they were to change R1 to even R2, this is totally hypothetical. Could somebody then turn their home into a duplex, thereby doubling like the number of people that could you jump
in?
I can see that could be conceivable, and with upzoning, it doesn't mean that we have to put like 12-story apartment towers in. There could be duplexes or more accessory apartments. I know there's a bit of a fear that we would look like Arlington or Alexandria, or even go as far as looking like Manhattan if we add more density, but there's a lot of variation in how to make more dense areas not look like it's just a wall of tall buildings on each side of a street.
why is the zoning not changing? Why a guy like Lyle, who openly talks on Twitter about the need to change the zoning, a guy like Rory Solzenberg, who's come on this program, he says we need to change the zoning. These are our effing planning commissioners here. Okay, and I don't want to say effing, I want to use something else, but I'm not going to do it because there's kids watching here. Why is the zoning not changing?
It's how slow the wheels of government turn, in my
That's what
opinion.
it is?
Of going to like meetings of, you get close to an idea, and then it gets kicked back to a committee or a subcommittee or back to staff, and then it almost comes to a vote, then it gets deferred, and then we get a partial victory, and it's just so many personalities, so many different boards and commissions that things have to go through. And then also there's just years of some issues with some of our departments. You had the director of Neighborhood Development Services calling the zoning a wastebasket of errors, that there's just a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done.
The conspiracy theorists in Charlottesville say that the folks of influence and the higher powers and the people with deep pockets don't want the zoning to change, and they want Charlottesville to stay the same, and they're not opposed to the cost of living going higher and higher and higher.
I think with some of the UVA students who are staying, and they are also like finding their fortune soon, that you'll have this new breed of younger people who are maybe not as on par as some of the generational wealth, but they'll have enough clout that things are going to change soon.
Mark Lickman, welcome to the show. John Pritzloff, commercial realtor, welcome to the program. Billy Koenig, VB's Cakes and Candy, hello. Kathy Joseph, hello. Kelly Dye, the banker, hello. Give the show a like, give it a share. Dot the I's and cross the T's on this topic if you have anything else. And then I want to throw the city council to you. Anything else on that? Charlottesville, how has it changed since you've been here since 97?
Oh my
I mean, the
gosh.
downtown mall ain't the same, is it?
No, I mean, I lived in York Place in 98,
Nice.
99.
But
It
that was
brand
fun.
new. I think I might have been the first person in one of those apartments, and they were
Was that
super
Ludwig
nice.
Kuttner, the landlord?
No, it was
Charlie Lewis?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was.
Okay.
And so, I lived on the downtown mall, and I was young, and it was a blast. I mean, there was a sort of a big music scene, but it felt like a smaller town at that point. I think it still did, and I think people who've been here even longer would say, "Are you kidding?" It was, you go back to the '80s, it felt, even different. But by the late '90s, I mean, the downtown mall was bustling, but there was just, you could still buy a house in Belmont for under $100,000, I think, 60. And things really started, I think, skyrocketing in the 2000
Happy City in America.
2006, 2007
Yeah.
time period before the recession.
Right.
I mean, things were just blowing up. And so I think it has changed a lot, and it certainly continued to move in that direction. Just everything feels bigger. I live in the Ridge Street neighborhood. My house is now 12 years old, but they're building 25 new houses on Hartman's Mill Road, which is completely going to change the character of the neighborhood. I'm not here to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is changing the nature of that neighborhood, which has been a traditionally African-American neighborhood, and which is now getting that pocket of houses that are going to be $500,000 or close to it. And
I think that's what's going to happen to Fifeville. I honestly do. That is what's going to happen to Fifeville. You are already seeing the doctors purchasing a lot of Fifeville and a lot of property around Cherry Avenue. And in a historically African-American neighborhood is literally being eroded and swallowed by the UVA machine. Your thoughts on that, Elliott Robinson?
I think we have to continue our tax abatement process to keep people in their homes who want to stay in their homes. And also, we have organizations to help do repairs for some of the elderly people, so in the hopes that they can pass their homes down to their children if they want to have a single-family home, or in an area where the lots are a lot closer together, so it's not as enormous as some of the new houses that are coming in. But then we also have to find a way just to keep a lot of those people in this area, and I think that's the nut we have to crack, is that we lose a lot of these younger people because Richmond's down the street, DC's down the street, and it seems a lot more welcoming to African Americans, for example. And a lot of people don't feel welcome here. I hear constantly when I go to council meetings that people don't feel welcome on the downtown mall. And I think it's because it seems like you only can be there unless you have an intention of buying something. So we have to find a way just to make the city more welcoming for everyone here, especially the people who have been here for years and years.
Well said, well said. And that sizzle reel on that statement there. We're going to change gears. Mary Robinson says, hello, Uncle Elliott. Nana and I are watching. Nana said you look really good. Where is Mary watching right now? Is that Hampton, Virginia?
That's Hampton.
Hampton in the house. What's up, Mary? I was in Hampton on Sunday. Love some Hampton, Virginia. Guys, give the show a like and a share depending on where you're watching. Kenneth Martin is still giving you props. So that's good.
Thanks,
right
Kenneth.
there. Let me give some props to the people that are watching. Deborah Wyatt says hello. Let's see who else. Samantha Sturmer Masson, am I saying her name?
Yes.
Yes. She's giving you some props as well. Give it a like, give it a share. We're going to wind the program down with this topic here. City Council, June 11th, primary. Throw it to you, and then I got some specific questions. The June 11th primary is going to go a long way, more so than the November election, in determining who's going to win those 3 spots on council. We have one independent in Bellamy Brown, two independents, but one of them that I think, frankly, and this is my opinion, I can give my opinion, you're reporting the news, I'm going to say this, it's not coming from you. I think Bellamy Brown, as an independent, legitimately has a chance to win a spot on council, and I think he is my second, if I was an odds maker, I go Lloyd Snook, 2-1, favorite to win. I go Bellamy Brown, 3-1. I say a Michael Payne, maybe a 6-1. A Brian Pinkston, 7-1. And then I'll throw everybody else and I'll call them the field and call them 10 or 11-1. So I think it's really Brown, Snook, Payne, and Pinkston for 3 spots.
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting, okay, because we saw at the last election with Nikuyah Walker that you can be somebody who's considered sort of an underdog running as an independent and win and beat the front runner, who I think in the last election would have been, Amy Lawfer was who everybody expected to win. And so, I guess I would agree that Lloyd Snook certainly has name recognition, and he's been part of the Democratic Party for a long time.
He's been the chair of it.
He's been the chair.
He's got the most money in his war chest.
Right. So, for those reasons, I would agree that, that puts him in a strong position. I know less about Bellamy Brown. I haven't interviewed him, for instance. But what I've heard, he's a rock star. I've seen support for him coming from the community. And so, yeah, I guess we're, and it's interesting too. It does.
He's watching right now, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Hey, I think, people want to see things get done in the city. Now, what those things are, people may disagree on, but I think, getting some answers on affordable housing and getting some action happening. I think most people you don't have a lot of disagreement on that. It's just how you do it.
Right. Ellie Robinson, thoughts?
Yeah, I think with this election, like you said, this is going to be very important, and I feel that a lot of people want to explore getting some new people onto council who aren't names that they've heard before in some of those political spheres, and that's why you have our independent candidates and some of our more activist candidates in the Democratic primary. It's just fascinating to me just seeing how involved people are at the council meetings lately. I haven't worked in an area before that would have the room almost filled to capacity every single time. It's unfortunate a lot of them leave before the actual business gets taken care of.
They're there for the open mic, right? The public speaker portion.
But the fact that people are showing up for it is showing that they do care about the city and they want to see something change. So I think I feel that the election will probably lean more towards not a lot of the familiar faces getting to those slots.
Yeah? What'd you think of, tough question for you. Mayor Walker had very to the point, can I say that? I guess that's a good description. Very to the point commentary, very opinionated commentary of candidate Lloyd Snook. What's your thoughts on her commentary about Lloyd Snook? And he's coming on the show tomorrow.
I think that what a lot of our boards and commissions need is a lot of these elected officials saying some of the things that are on their mind out loud. That there's so many instances where there's just like simmering tension under all of these votes or all of the discussions, and that if they just get these things out, maybe we can like resolve that and move on to something else.
So you're saying as a journalist you loved it? That's what you're basically saying. As a journalist, I mean that's an incredible soundbite.
Better, more sound bites.
What did you think about that?
Well, I think that she says what's on her mind. And I think that is why it's not. It's why a lot of people voted for her, and it's what they want. They want somebody who's going to say what they're thinking. So I think that it was in keeping with what she kind of promised to do,
unmasking
which is
the
just
illusion.
Shoot straight.
Yeah, unmasking the illusion. So just playing devil's advocate with you for the sake of a talk show. Well, why don't I start with this question? You've been here since '97. You've covered news the majority of the time there. Have you ever seen a mayor offer pointed commentary like that before in your time of covering Charlottesville news?
No. No. But I think that the last several years, really leading up, sort of 2016, 2017, really since the election, I think 2016 changed the tone of politics. The national election changed the tone of politics, everywhere, because I think people felt like there was more at stake, whichever side they were on. And so I think that,
certainly post 8/12.
Yeah, but we were, that led into August 12th.
Right.
Obviously not just chronologically, but just some of the issues that it was tied to. So I think that that we have just been in a much more contentious period politically, even at the local level.
I agree with that. You get the final word, Elliott Robinson. Close the sizzle reel here with Elliott Robinson's final word on this. Start with my question on the politics. Your thoughts on what we're talking about here?
I think that, in a way, I feel that this is just good that we're having this discussion. There is a lot of yelling and shouting in council chambers, but a lot of these people had never been heard before, or they felt that they would never get their voices heard by the city government for so many years. And it's going to take a while just for all of that just to get out, and they just want to see some sort of progress get made. It's like, well, now I'm here, now do something about it. Like you said, you're going to listen to me. I want you to actually listen to me. So I'm looking forward to what happens with the election. I think it was interesting that the change that could come forward, because we got Mayor Walker, who was, like you said, was the underdog, who
got the W.
Yeah, she got the win. She made her promises of what she was going to do, and she's followed through on them. And we have our candidates who are the kind of leaning toward the more activist things, like they're running on platforms like doing something about affordable housing.
Michael Payne.
So you're going to have if he wins, there's the anticipation that something finally will get done about affordable housing. So I think we've lost that era of trying to run things smoothly and pretend that everything's okay, that we have to face these tough issues and do something about them.
Good. That's a great way to stop. Thank you. I'm grateful for Elliott Robinson's time. You crushed it. Thank you, Courteney. Go to Charlottesville Tomorrow, visit their website, follow this man's byline. He's doing amazing things. His team's doing amazing things from a news standpoint, land use standpoint, development standpoint. I'm on the website constantly to prepare for this program. I follow her constantly. CBS 19 guys, they both crush it. Thank you, Elliott, for your time. Thank you, Courteney, for your time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
I Love CVille Show, guys, Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1:30. Lloyd Snook tomorrow. We close the program the same way every time. We ask you to embody the golden rule. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. It's not about religion. It's about treating people with respect. You embody the golden rule and watch the amazing positivity that will happen to the Charlottesville and Central Virginia community, really the world. It's the golden rule, the golden rule, the golden rule. For Harris Tolber, Judah Wickower, Lauren Linsky, the team upstairs, I'm Jerry Miller. It's the I Love CVille Show on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you for joining us. Good work. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Hour and 7 minutes flew by. It was good.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd know what to say for an hour.
Dude, you crushed it.
You did great.
Yeah, so good. So were you.